Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be the monthly update for August. I was really proud because I'd done one of these every single month so far the year, but I totally missed July. I thought about filming July's update on August 1st, but I decided instead that I'd just wait until we were ways into August, and then I could do a review of July and talk about my plans for August moving forward. The reason I didn't do one of these earlier is because July was not a very great month for me mental health wise. I think I'll do a little mental health update at the end of this video because I know it doesn't interest everyone. But I was only in the mood to film about 4 days last month, and I think I filmed a video on each of those days. So on any day where I felt capable of filming, I focused on filming complete whole videos as opposed to filming little bits and pieces that I could arrange and compile into a monthly vlog. So there isn't going to be a monthly vlog for June or July because I just didn't film enough to justify it. However, hopefully I will film enough in August because I have quite a few things in progress, as you might be able to tell by what's behind me. I'm also really excited because at the end of this month, my mom and I are going up to Pennsylvania and we're doing our 5-day antiquing and fabric shopping adventure. So I'll be sure to vlog that as well. I've already planned out the trip and I found some new places for us to go, which I'm pretty excited about, in addition to all of our favorite stores that we go to every time. Aside from that, I do have quite the list here. I went through and watched my previous monthly update and wrote down things that I need to do updates on, and also notes for future plans, which I want to include in this video as well. Let's start with updates. So the 1820s checked project, which is supposed to be a skirt and a blouse set, I've not made any effort to work on. It is still in the box and it is still collecting dust and has not moved since we last talked about it. There's an 1860s project that I mentioned in the last video that had zigzag detailing on the hem, and I actually finished that project. So I made the blouse for it, I made a Swiss waist for it, and I finished the skirt. So that project is done and dusted. Also in that video I mentioned Anastasia, and unfortunately I haven't progressed on that at all. I ended up having to order more trim for it, and the trim was a different color and not nearly as good as the trim that I purchased in New York City for it. So I think I'm actually going to go back into New York City with the sole purpose of getting trim for Anastasia. I also honestly just haven't really been feeling that project, and it's so complicated and there's so much to do and it's still in such a beginning stage that I really want to be focused and up for it when I'm actually working on it, because I think that's going to lead to having a much better result in the end. I also talked about my Barbie obsession in that video, and soon after I had you guys vote on which Barbie you would like to see me recreate, or which Barbie dress you would like to see me recreate, and Homecoming Barbie ended up winning, so that is something that I did in July as well. I'm also happy to say that I've progressed a lot on the mint and white rococo gown, which was something that was voted on by all of you wonderful patrons, and that's coming along really nicely. All I have to do is seam the skirt together, hem the skirt, and then sew it onto the bodice, and it will be completely finished. I don't even have to make a hat to go with it because I'm just going to pin butterflies into my hair and call it it. So I'm really excited to get that project done, and hopefully I can get it photographed this weekend, which means I need to finish it tonight, but I think that's doable. So another project I worked on, which isn't an update because I wasn't even planning on making it when we last talked, is a 1790s pink dress. I'm going to show it to you in a minute, but I made this dress in about 2 days from 7 yards of bright pink quilting cotton, and I'm so pleased with how it turned out. It's a really cute empire waisted dress, and it's actually quite flattering because it doesn't have a lot of volume in the front of it. And I think for the headpiece for that, I'm just going to braid some flowers into my hair and call it quits. And I'm hoping to get that photographed this weekend as well. And then I mentioned an 1840s one-day dress because I had planned on making that dress in 1 day. However, it did not come together in 1 day. It took me approximately 4 days just to gather down a single ruffle to put on the hem of the skirt. However, the skirt is now finished, the ruffle is sewn on, the hem is hemmed, and the bodice is pretty much completely constructed, complete with buttonholes. The only thing it's missing are sleeves, which I've been hardcore procrastinating making, but I definitely want to finish that project before I go off to Pennsylvania, so then I will have a bin ready for whatever I want to start when I get back. I also attempted to make a 1920s dress based off of a fashion plate, but did not go particularly well. In fact, the material I ended up choosing and the overall shape of the dress made it look like a garbage bag. I actually found some silk charmeuse in my stash that I could use to reattempt that, but I haven't quite felt up to it because the last fail was such a fail indeed. Speaking of fails, I totally botched my 1990s blouse, so I have to completely restart on that. I have purchased more fabric for it and the fabric has arrived, so I can get started on it whenever I'm feeling up to it, which has not been this week. In fact, this week I've started on some completely new stuff, which you can probably see behind me. However, first I should talk about other things that I completed. As I mentioned, I made 2 pairs of shorts and 2 blouses, and I also made 2 1940s inspired dresses from Pattern. I also made a 1950s inspired dress from Pattern, and I made a pair of denim shorts for a 1990s pattern, which I did film a video for and will be up as a Patreon exclusive video sometime in the next month. The last thing I finished is Orange Blossom Barbie, which is behind me. This is based off of a vintage outfit of Barbies, and it consists of a fitted yellow dress with a sheer nylon overdress. And unfortunately the fabric I purchased for it is an eyelet cotton, and though it has the exact print as the nylon fabric did, it is not the right weight, and you cannot see the yellow dress through it, which you are supposed to be able to. So I've actually purchased a very sheer Chantilly lace fabric that I think I'm going to try remaking the overdress out of, and hopefully then I will end up looking more like Orange Blossom Barbie. As it is now, it was kind of a fail, even though I think I got the pattern and the fit of it pretty much perfect. I'm really pleased with the pattern that I drafted. I'm definitely going to save that and use it again, just out of a different material, and see if the results are a bit better. So that's what's behind me, and there is actually going to be a Patreon exclusive video all about making it, and then a separate video about making a hat to go with it. And I think that is going to be the 2 Patreon exclusive videos for this month, since I'm not entirely confident I'll get my act together and finish the 1990s project before the end of the month, because that is how hardcore I've been procrastinating on it. As for purchases, I've actually been pretty tame this month, though I have been hardcore tempted to purchase some fabrics from Spoonflower. There are some Halo 3 themed fabrics which I am in love with. They just speak to my very soul. That is a game I grew up playing, even though I was probably too young to be playing with it. And I still play Halo Reach, which was the next game to come out in the franchise. I actually spent too much time playing that game, so these fabrics speak to my very soul. And then there are also some Rococo prints, which are just beautiful based off of paintings. And I have this brilliant idea for a dress that has flowers at the hem, and then the flowers used to make a very low-cut square-necked bodice. So it'd be kind of 1950s meets 1750s, and it would be beautiful. So I think I'm probably going to end up making a Spoonflower order sometime soon. But as it is now, I only made 2 fabric purchases. Well, 2 random fabric purchases. I made a relatively large order from fabric.com and purchased materials for the next 2 editions in the Barbie project. The winners for the poll I posted were Plantation Barbie as well as Soda Shop Barbie. And for Plantation Barbie, I had to buy some materials from Austria, so I wasn't sure when those would get there and when I would actually be able to get started on it. I decided to buy fabric for Soda Shop Barbie too, since I figured I was going to end up making both of them anyways. But actually, as of now, I have all the fabrics I need for Plantation Barbie, as well as for her ridiculous hat, and I also have everything I need for Soda Shop Barbie, so I can get started on those sometime soon. And then I bought a bit of raspberry colored silk shantung from Fabric Mart, which is just the most delicious color. I want to use it to make a very simple 1860s dress to wear over top of the elliptical hoop skirt that I made a couple of months back. And then I also purchased flowers for the 1870s project that I've talked a little bit about. I purchased them from Joann's, but I ended up returning all of them because they just weren't right. And I found ones from Michaels from the fall collection that were a much better color and on a much denser garland, and they were also a lot larger. I just thought the proportions altogether would work a lot better. So I purchased 12 garlands of those, and they're currently living in a giant moving box in our basement until I get around to making that. Then the other purchase was from a trip to Joann's. I was driving to Joann's the other day to pick up netting so I could finish Orange Blossom Barbie, because the whole skirt is actually lined with petticoat netting, so it flares away from the body and has a bit more volume. So I went to Joann's with the only goal of purchasing 4 yards of petticoat netting, and on the way there I realized that the sunflower field was out and in full bloom once again, and I just couldn't resist getting stuff for a sunflower themed project. And I might have gotten stuff for 2 sunflower themed projects. One of them is behind me, and it is actually a bustle dress, and then the other one is going to be a slimmer cut kind of Edwardian evening gown that's slightly off the shoulders and has feathers around the neckline, a bunch of sunflowers, and have those arranged around the neckline and also on the skirt. So I'm really excited about that, and I've made good headway with both those projects, so I will definitely show you them within this video. As for future plans and goals, my goal for this month is to make a lot of things and to use up a lot of fabric, because as I said, my mom and I are going to Pennsylvania at the end of this month, and there's still a lot of fabric for a previous trip that I haven't used. So I'd really like to dive into a few of the larger cuts of fabric that I have and make some major progress with those, and hopefully free up some room for some new fabric that I know I'm inevitably going to buy while we are away. One of the things I'd love to do is just a natural form air gown with a lot of ruffles, and I would love to make this out of this pinstripe fabric that I purchased in New York City. I have 10 yards of it. Darn it! I thought I had a lot more than that. I'm actually not sure that 10 yards is enough for the idea that I had in mind. I totally thought I had 15 yards. But still, I would like to make something out of this, and I think that would be a good fit. It's also a very light fabric and it's green, so I think it's just perfect for the season that is upon us. And then I could photograph it wandering through the forest and it would just be glorious. So that is one project that I have planned. I would also love to make an 1830s dress out of 8 yards of silk taffeta, which I have right here. I purchased this 1 year ago from Fabric Mart, or maybe even 2 years ago from Fabric Mart. I don't remember. But I purchased it in person on one of our trips to Pennsylvania, and I just fell in love with how bright and sunshiny and summery it was, and I still really like it. So I'd love to turn that into an 1830s dress with a really wide pleated collar, and really poofy leg of mutton sleeves, and a very full, very simple skirt. I don't think that project would take very long, and I think it would actually be a fun project to film, because I haven't filmed too many historic projects this year. I also want to work on an 1850s evening gown with large ruffles that form the hem and lots of lace around the neckline, and I will show you the fabrics that I have in mind for that project. And I totally blanked on this, but I'm also working on an 1868 evening gown or seaside ensemble made out of a silk broadcloth and a red silk file that I had in my stash. One of them is a new addition to my stash and one of them I've had for years. So that's on my list of things to make, but this list is kind of outdated because I've actually already started making that. So I can show you some photos of what that looks like as well. I don't currently have it out on dress form, but I have been photographing it along the way, so here are some progress shots of it. I kind of ran out of enthusiasm for this when I started on the sunflower bustle dress, so it might be a bit before I come back to this, but it is on my list. I also want to make an octopus romper, which is a romper made out of fabric from the Neptune collection that came out a while back, and it was florals mixed with fish, and I made a dress out of one of the fabrics and you guys thought it was hilarious and wonderful, so I'd really like to make a romper out of the coordinating octopus floral fabric, which I've had in my stash for quite a while now. So those are the main things on my to make list, along with the sunflower projects that I've started for the moment. So I'm just going to jump right in and show you the fabrics for them, and also take you around my sewing room and show you other things that I have in progress, as well as some of the things that I've finished, like that pink dress. So over here we have my orange blossom Barbie dress and what it's supposed to look like. So as you can see, her dress is quite sheer and you can see the yellow dress underneath it. And with mine, it's very opaque and you can just barely see bits of yellow from underneath it. So I'll insert a photo of the lace that I ordered online here. And hopefully that will look a little bit better. It's really disappointing because this has the banding details her dress has and the print to it, and I just think it's almost a perfect match. It's just too opaque. So even though I tried my absolute hardest, this just didn't turn out in a way that I'm happy with, even though I think the pattern is a really good match. So I'm definitely going to reattempt this, but I am still going to post the video of making this attempt because I do think it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how it compares to the one that I make in the future. And I'm going to keep the underdress and the pattern and everything, so it's just going to be a fabric change. So I'll probably talk about making that in a vlog or something, since I don't know if it needs to be documented in great detail once again. But that I'm hopefully going to get photographed tomorrow morning. Over here I just have those fabrics that I mentioned that I would like to use up this month. And then over here, actually, I moved stuff around, so now I have a shelf for some of my figurines. And I actually added 2 figurines to the room this month. So this is Lillian Russell, and she is absolutely huge compared to the tiny figurines. And then I also got Mardi Gras, and both of these have a little bit of damage to them, but these have been on my list of dream figurines for a long time, and since they were damaged, they were actually in my price range. Whereas if they weren't damaged, they probably would have gone for $1,000 each, and I paid nowhere near that. So I'm very happy to have these as additions in my sewing room, and I'd absolutely love to do a reproduction of her dress someday. That's definitely a series that I'd like to do in the future as well. Over here I have the sketch for the Edwardian sunflower dress, and I will insert some photos on screen of what inspired this. And for this project I'm using some feathers that I purchased for a 1920s project. These have actually been really annoying to work with. The top is secured with glue, so when you sew through it your needle gets really gummed up, and if you try and pin it on then your pins get really gummed up. So I actually had to keep a needle threader next to my sewing machine because the machine was constantly unthreading itself because it was getting so gummed up. But I'm finally done sewing the feather trim on, so that's nice. And then I've also been using this trim that I picked up at an antique store, and it's so pretty and it's so perfect for this project. And then for making the butterflies, I'm going to use this gold fabric, which I picked up at Fabric Mart for $9 a yard. It's a silk taffeta, and I think it matches the color of the sunflowers really nicely, while still being more of a gold than a yellow, so it's quite elegant. And then I've got some polyester silk file, which I might use to make flowers for the sunflowers. sorry, not flowers, leaves for the sunflowers, but I haven't decided just yet. And speaking of leaves, in here I have a bunch of stuff for that Seaside 1868 ensemble. The reason I say 1868 is because it's very heavily based on this fashion plate, which is dated July 1868. So that's how I've been dating it, and I purchased these from an Etsy seller to do the little bouquet sort of thing you can see on her skirt. My overskirt isn't quite as dramatic as hers, but I am pretty happy with how it's come out so far. So as I said, I will definitely include photos of what that looks like on my dress form since it's not currently on there. Then over here, I just have the netting to make a hat for Orange Blossom Barbie. I actually already made the hat for this project, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, but it's the wrong color. It's more of a lemon yellow instead of the orangey goldy yellow of my fabric. So I purchased this tulle, which matches it much more nicely. So I think I'm going to use that instead and remake the hat. It matches the netting used on her hat a little bit better too. As you can see, it's a much finer mesh that they used. So that is a task for tonight, since as I said, I want to get this photographed tomorrow. Speaking of Barbies, over here I have the materials that I purchased for them. So this is Plantation Belle Barbie, and I think I'm going to refer to her by her outfit number instead of Plantation Barbie when I make the video, because plantation just seems like an outdated term, and I'm not sure how much I want to be advertising my channel alongside that word. But she consists of a hat, a purse, a dress, and then she actually has this petticoat and then this little corset garter thing underneath. So these are all the fabrics that I purchased for it. I have a headband for the hat, because her hat is mounted on a headband. And then I have horsehair braid for the hat, because that is what her little hat is made out of. I also have some beige colored straw to do the detailing around the hat. And then I have some pink straw to do the top of the hat, as well as to make her little purse, which I'm only going to attempt if I have enough left over, but I think I will. I also bought a pearl necklace to match her necklace and her bracelet. And then for the actual dress, I have this flocked tulle, which has the polka dots on it, which I'm going to have to tea stain to match the ivory tone of her dress. And then I also have this pink organza, which I'm going to layer underneath the tulle to create this sort of effect. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a pink organza that had the polka dots already on it, so that's why I'm using a combination of these two fabrics. Then for her petticoat, I have some off-white silk organza, and I have some silk charmeuse for making her little girdle underskirt thing. I have 60 yards of this lace, which I think is a pretty good match for the lace used on her skirt. And then I have one more lace trim. I'm not sure where it went. I found it. So I'm going to use this as the border you see there. So now I have everything I need to get started on her, which is exciting. And I also have everything I need to get started on Soda Shop Barbie. I am really happy with the materials I found for Soda Shop Barbie. From Fabric.com, I found the perfect fabric for the blouse. Like, it is seriously so bang on. I love it. And then I also found a pink corduroy, which is a really, really close match. So I purchased that as well. And then I've got this sparkly silver lace, which I'm going to use to trim her petticoat underneath the skirt. And then I bought some tulle to mount it on. And then this is going to be the actual petticoat fabric. And then for the little poodle on her skirt, I purchased some silver gimp. I purchased pretty much the widest gimp I could find that was less than 1 inch, so it would be to scale. And I actually also purchased a vintage heart brooch, but it hasn't come in the mail yet. So I'm really, really happy with the fabrics for that, and I'm actually pretty happy with the fabrics for Plantation Barbie too. I think the colors are pretty much bang on, especially the straw that I purchased for the hat and the purse. It's pretty much perfect. Over here, I have the Sunflower Bustle dress. So I've made some pretty good progress on this. It has 2 bustled portions in the back, one made out of brown cotton and one made out of plaid, and then the underskirt is made out of this glazed cotton, which looks almost like silk because it has a metallic sheen to it, which is really cool. And the bottom edge of this ruffle is dagged, so it has a zigzag pattern, which took absolutely forever to do, but I think looks really, really good. And then to cover the top edge of that, I just did a ruffle of polka dot fabric that matches the bustle, and in the center of it, to cover up all of the machine stitching, I have some binding that I have made out of the plaid material. And the plaid material also falls to a point at the front, and then at the sides where it's gathered, I'm going to put some bows. So I actually have a whole bunch of bows already made. They just need to be stitched on along with the trim around the ruffle. And then the skirt will pretty much be done. There's just a little bit of other tacking stitching that has to be done, and then I need to figure out what the bodice is going to look like because I haven't quite done that yet. Also, for the 50s/60s evening gown that I mentioned, 1850s/60s. These are the fabrics I have in mind. I got them on my most recent trip to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I really want to do a tiered ruffle evening gown. I'll insert some photos here of what I mean. I just think that would be really fun. I think these are the perfect materials for them. And now I have the proper foundations for it to go over top of, so I really have nothing holding me back. This would definitely be a good amount of material to get out of my stash before buying anything more. Speaking of buying anything more, this is the silk that I purchased. Showing up almost red on camera, but in person it's more of a purpley fuchsia, and it's just so vibrant and lovely. I can't wait to turn this into a vintage, or historic rather, dress. Speaking of purchases, I actually lied because I forgot to mention this purchase. This is for my Halloween project this year. I think I'm going to do two. So I'm going to have one that is a natural form air dress with lots of ruffles made out of this black and white fabric. Then I'm going to do an 18th century robe a la polonaise out of these two fabrics. So I've got this striped Halloween material that says Happy Haunting, Gone Batty, and has this striped print on it, which I think is a really fun take on the striped floral prints that were so popular in the 18th century. And then I've got this striped fabric that matches it that can go underneath and be turned into a petticoat. So I think this is going to be a really fun project. And then instead of having buttons to hold the skirt up, I'm gonna have skeleton hands. It's gonna be so fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And then in here I have the Anastasia project. Here you can see the trim that I purchased online that I don't like as much. This one's perfect. I purchased it in New York City and it stuck on great. This one just doesn't stick properly, and it's also a completely different tone of gold. I thought it was passable, but I'm just not happy with it, so I'm going to rip it off and try and buy a wider gold trim from the Garment District, which is more appropriate. I also have my pink dress in here, so it's got really unique Regency-inspired sleeves, and then it's got the shape that was more common in the 1780s. Or 1790s, sorry. And it's got little covered buttons on it as well. And then it actually has a train down the back. And it closes with buttons at the back too, and I just think it's really cute. I'm really excited to get it photographed. And speaking of things to photograph, this is the butterfly dress in progress. So the sleeves are on the bodice, the closures are on the bodice. I've got lots of butterflies on the bodice as well. So the bodice is pretty much done. I just have to attach the skirt, and the skirt is looking quite good as well. I thought about adding flowers around the butterflies in the trim, but I don't think it adds much, so I think I'm just going to remove those. Right now they're just pinned on. So I've got all the butterflies on the skirt and I'm really happy with it. I just have to sew the back piece onto the skirt. So I have two seams to sew, then I have to hem it and gather the top edge down, get that sewn into the bodice. So it's probably about 3 hours of work, which I think I can accomplish today. And then over here, I have the other sunflower inspired project. So this is actually made out of corduroy, since that is the only black fabric that they had more than 5 yards of in stock, and I was originally planning on doing more of a ball gown that would require a lot more fabric. So that's what I purchased, and it's kind of a weird fabric for this dress, but I also kind of like it because it's got texture and it does have a sheen to it. So I've already hemmed it with horsehair braid, and I did 2 bands of this sequin trim. From the bottom band there are ostrich feathers hanging down, and then around the neckline there are more ostrich feathers and more of that trim, and I'm going to mount a whole bunch of flowers on top of the trim, which I think is going to make it look really striking. So that is everything that I have in progress, and hopefully this was a good update and gives you some insight into what I've been working on. Now I'm going to cut to an ending clip where I ramble about mental health for a bit. So if you're interested, then you can stick around for that. So that's the little tour around my sewing room, and I hope you enjoyed. As always, I'd love to hear about what you have in progress and what you're hoping to accomplish throughout the month. So the reason that the last month has kind of sucked, and the reason why some months suck and some months don't, is because I have bipolar disorder, which is something that I was diagnosed with really recently. I've known for a while that I have some of the symptoms, specifically something called mood cycling, but this month I was put on medication specifically for bipolar disorder, which kind of cinched the fact that I have it. So that's why some months I can barely get out of bed, and some weeks I'm frustrated to the point of tears over trying to sew a single seam, and other weeks I'm incredibly motivated and I can finish multiple projects throughout the course of a 7-day period. So I'm just kind of up and down a lot, and it's nice to finally have a reason behind why I'm like that. For a long time I felt like I'm a really lazy person, and I felt really guilty because of that, because there are times when I just can barely get out of bed because I'm so tired and I don't understand why I'm so tired, and it just makes me feel like crap that I can't work consistently in the way that a lot of people do and a lot of people have to. And that's made me feel really guilty and bad about the success I've had. It's made me feel very undeserving of it because I know I don't work as hard as a lot of people do. And I'm not trying to use bipolar disorder as an excuse for that, but it is kind of nice to have a reason for that, and that makes me feel less like a failure. Also, being diagnosed with it means that I can be treated for it, which is really good. Unfortunately, I have been on a medication that's supposed to help with the mood changes for about 4 months now, and it hasn't done anything except make me gain 15 pounds. So now I feel kind of like crap about my body, on top of just feeling like crap in general. But I'm on a new medication as of last week, which is supposed to have really good results with much fewer side effects. In fact, the only real side effect it has is something called Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which if you haven't heard of, don't Google it. It's a really rare side effect, but it causes something called skin shedding, which is just as horrifying as you're probably thinking, because it causes your skin to fall off and there's no real treatment for it, and you can actually go blind from it and lose your fingernails and lose your hair because it involves a rash that is so severe that it just kills your cells, and I'm really hoping that that doesn't happen to me. As I said, it's pretty rare, so it probably won't. Hopefully it won't. But I'm slightly terrified about that every time I take a pill. So that's great for my anxiety. But as I said, I do think it's a good thing in general to finally be able to put a name to what I have been experiencing for so many years. And it's made me feel a lot better moving forward. And hopefully now being aware of it and treating it, it won't be something that holds me back as much in the future. So that is the mental health update. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to all of you guys very soon in another video.